So I did want to weld these brackets onto the hatch. That's actually kind of the last little bit of welding to do on the hull, other than welding the tower on. But I forgot to order the steel, so I haven't got the material, so I can't do it. So next little bit of welding to do is to put those arms onto the hatch, and then weld on the corresponding brackets that I've already had made onto there, and then I can weld the tower on. Then we're done with the pressure hull, and then I can get it grip blasted. So today what I'm going to do is make this start making the forward and the main ballast tanks. So first thing we're going to do is have a real tidy up. So I've got the wide angle lens on, and I've had a bit of a tidy up, as you can see, and I've got that frame that I used to roll the hull around in. Right, so I've got two pieces of wood. This is just an 8x4 sheet cut in half. I'll show you on the CAD what today's plan is going to be. I'm just going to chop a bit off this. I don't need it to actually be this wide, so it'll fit in better. Trouble with wood, it's such a mess. Right, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to start on the construction of the main ballast tanks. So there's the forward and the back ones to make. So I'm going to make them in two halves. So I'm going to make each piece like that, and then I'm going to make them with this lip so I can bolt them together, and also that I can bolt them to the chassis of the boat. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to start with a piece of wood, and then I'm going to make this thing which I'm kind of calling a sweeper, and that is going to be able to sweep the shape, because I need to make that basic shape. So that's my sweeper, and then I'm going to get a load of building foam and sweep this around here just to sort of rough out the basic shape, and theoretically I should end up with that, or something similar, although the real one probably won't be quite as neat as that. And then from there I'm going to cover this in plaster and sweep around and get that nice shape. Now once I've done that, then the sweeper comes off, so fiberglass over the top of it, and that should make the mould, and that's going to have an edge around it. Once I've made the mould, then the inner bit and the base come off, and then I'm going to flip it upside down like this, and then I'll probably put some legs on it like that, so it's easy to hold it, or easier to operate. So that's then going to be my mould. Then I'm going to put an edge on it like that, and that gives me something to put the edges for the actual part I'm making on. And finally I should be able to glass inside of that to make my shape, and then the edge will unbolt, and that should then allow this part to free up and come out of the mold, and then I can make 4 of those, and theoretically we end up with that at the end. Okay, so what I've done is, in order to draw the ellipse, that's what I need. There's different ways you can do this. I looked it up on the internet. You do it by drawing it, like we used to do it. Engineering drawing. You can do bits of string, or one method which I was going to give it a go was getting a piece of wood and you kind of follow the edges with a nail, but in the end I thought do it like this. Right, probably a little bit difficult to see on that, but here is the shape of the ellipse. Full size, and what I did is I drew these little boxes which are sort of reference boxes, so I can measure the boxes and make sure that it was actually the correct size, which it is. So this outside edge of the ellipse is the critical edge. That's the edge that I'm going to form, and the inside edge is going to be the inside diameter, or the outside diameter of the hull. So what I've done is the distance from the inner edge to there should be the outside diameter of the hull, so 716. So 716, and then the distance between the inner and the outer there should be the thickness of my fibreglass that it's going to be. Now, in this drawing I did it 8mm because I wasn't quite sure, but actually Jodie B's are 6 and they're really, really strong, so I'm going to do it 6mm. So I just need to slightly adjust that. Put this out now. And I'm gonna do it at the 8mm just to give me 2mm of leeway. It'll be easier to pack it out at this end rather than accidentally make it too small. Now this bit here at the end, I've actually added another 50mm of flat, which is tangential to the actual ellipse shape. So that gives me a bit of extra leeway, so that then I can then cut the tank into the correct place, because there'll be all frayed bits and whatnot. So right, the jigsaw blade wasn't straight, so I'm going to have to do it again. Put this extra bit on that I definitely didn't forget about. And I've drilled 2 holes and I'm putting this bar through it. I've got to get some sort of pivots now.
Right, made 2 little brackets, that one's go on there. Now what I need to do is I need to just chisel out, because that needs to swing round, and it won't swing with all this material in here, so I'm just going to mark that. Okay, so that's the sweeper. The idea is it sweeps across like that and makes my shape. And my critical dimension is that. Should be 358 plus the thickness of the, however thick my my glass is going to be, and that's actually going to be a little bit thick. It needs to come down a fraction. I just have to modify that slightly. How am I going to do that? I'll sink these brackets in a bit. A good bit of carpentry, that. Let's see if that makes any difference. Okay, so finally I've got my sweeper. I'm calling it a sweeper, I don't know if there's a proper word for it. And I'm happy that it's going to give me the correct shape. This piece is going to come off because that's the bit where I forgot to put that on, so I glued and screwed it on, but this is just holding it in the right place. So I'm going to get the foam out now. This stuff was all free from the kind of offcuts skip at the local building supplier. Okay, so I finished doing the actual foam kind of basics of the mould, or the plug, or whatever it's called. I've tied it up. So I'm just going to wait for this to dry, and then I'm going to cover it in plaster to get that smooth shape. And I'm going to trim this down a little bit more because it's a bit too tight in a couple of places. But I don't want to touch it. This glue is really rubbish. I'm only using it because I've got some left, but looks a bit like an igloo.